Hey guys, welcome back to another Warframe video where today I'm going to be running through my Archon one-shot build, the one that I have been using throughout my Warframe Done Efficiently series, although this is the final iteration of that build. For those of you who have followed my series, you will know that it is a much cheaper build that I use throughout it. It does not incorporate any Archon shards, any Riven mods, any Former on the Loki, just the Archon reactor to double the capacity. So if you are interested in that, then do go ahead and have a look at my Warframe Done Efficiently series. I think what I might try and do is pinpoint the episode where we actually first run through it and put it down in the description below if you guys are interested, along with the links to my other series and guide videos for you guys to go and have a look if you are interested. But yeah, we'll just hop straight into the build that I am using and kind of explain as we go why I've made some of the choices that I have. So let's first of all take a look at the Archon shards that I have put on this Loki. So I've first of all got two Talforged Ambers. They are on parkour velocity. Now, this is probably a weird pick for a lot of people, but in an Archon hunt, as part of it, you have to go and hunt down the deacons and get their helmets in the middle bit. Now, Loki isn't a frame that has a great deal of speed potential. He is actually quite fast sprinting-wise, but when it comes to actually moving and getting around the map, he's not all that great. And a lot of people who do this, they like to use Ivara as another good shout for this. Any stealth frame really can absolutely demolish Archon hunts. And the reason that I like to use Loki over Ivara is because of his, his mobility. He can move around a lot more than Ivara can. He's generally just quicker in that sense. Obviously, Ivara can stay invisible for much longer, and her damage output is potentially greater. But yeah, for my personal preference, I like to use Loki. So before anyone jumps in the comments and starts, telling me what I should be using, this is all my personal preference and what I have become accustomed to and what I am used to. And it's just kind of to show you guys how I did it throughout my series. I then have three Archon Crimson shards here, not Talforged, all on ability Duration. We have enough ability Strength on this build. We'll go into it in a second. So Duration is kind of the next go-to. The longer we can stay invisible for, the better. And our other buffs. We want to keep them up as long as possible. So yeah, also very important. So let's take a look at the build. It is revolving around a single one-punch shot. We are using the Felarx, so we want to get as much damage packed into that shot as possible. Now you can see here I've got Molt Vigor on and also Arcane Energize. Arcane Energize isn't strictly speaking necessary in this build. This is more insurance for me in case I do run it, start running low on energy. But some of the sentient enemies during these missions do essentially refill your entire energy pool, so this really isn't an important tool whatsoever, especially if you can run preparation on your build and also primed flow, as Loki's energy pool is already very high. We've got this up at 744 energy pretty much, so he has a very high energy pool, which is going to allow us to use abilities like, or not abilities, but mods like Blind Rage, where we can up our ability strength at the cost of efficiency. And because our duration is so high, we're not going to be using abilities very much. You can see here our Eclipse, which is what we're going to be using as the primary method of damage for our Felarx, is up at 381% with 71 seconds of duration. And since Eclipse uses very little energy anyway, we're only going to be using 38.75 each time we use it. So yeah, generally speaking, this build works pretty well for me. Obviously, you guys can play around with it however you want. I've also got Holster Ramp and Vigorous Swap for even more damage from my primary weapon when I equip it. Just for that super punch, it's gonna be pretty lethal. Molt Vigor obviously just to give me extra ability strength on my next cast once I use an operator ability. Let's take a look at the Felarx now. Like I said, in my series, I do not have a Riven mod for this, and the build uses only 2 Former, maybe even 3. So it's very cheap on my playthrough, but this is the one that I've kind of settled on. Again, this is to my satisfaction. You guys can play around with mods however you want. However, for this particular mission, this is what I like to run with, and you'll notice I've gone Tactical Pump and Chilling Reload. I do like having the extra reload speed on the Felarx. It's just serves for peace of mind, in my opinion. I've also got Fatal Acceleration on here for some extra projectile speed. Not only does this increase the speed of the projectiles, it also increases our fall-off range as well. So I can shoot the Archon from much further away before my pellets start dealing less damage, which is actually quite important in some cases where you're on a bit tricky terrain, I guess. But yeah, everything else geared towards high multi-shot. You can see we're up at 13.6 here, and our Galvanized Hell is going to provide us with an additional 30 every single time we get a kill, up to 4 times. I've also put Vigilante Armaments on as well for even more multi-shot, and then my Riven mod is providing me with an additional 71.1% as well. Now, This river mod really isn't that great. I'm not overly happy with it. You can see it's a 3 stat. I do have damage and I do have multi-shot. Ideally, negative crit chance may be pretty good on this. And I also don't want damage to corpus there, something like fire rate or, well, really anything else other than damage to an enemy would be just fine with me. But yeah, it's kind of a bummer. So is the negative reload speed, but it does increase our, general overall damage. So that's the reason that I'm running it. Primary deadhead, as for the most part, I want to be shooting the Archon in the head to get the highest level of damage. And also I can stack this up prior to encountering the Archon just by killing some enemies before I get there, and the buff lasts for 24 seconds, unlike Primary Merciless where it ticks down every 2 or 3. So yeah, another important tool as well. Secondary and melee don't really matter at all on this. I am not going to be using them. However, I'll just quickly show the build that I am running on my Tenet Detron. And also my Exodiazor. I do have a video guide on this. Again, I will leave links to my guides down in the description below if you guys are interested. And then lastly, we are running Madurai. Now, Madurai is just for even more insane damage. So Phoenix Talons straight up increases our damage by 30%. No hassle there. We also have Power Transfer, which is going to give us an extra 50% casting speed when we switch back into our Warframe, so we can cast our abilities much faster. We also then have Void Strike, which we're going to be using before we actually attack the Archon. It's going to give us 8 seconds of essentially 1000% damage, which is just insane. And it's also then going to feed into Void Fuel, where when we are using Void Strike, we get 40% weapon efficiency. So we're going to be using less ammo when Void Strike is active. And these do work for both Warframe and Operator, as you can see. On top of that, we also have Sling Strength here, where you can see switching to Warframe after a Chain Sling as an additional 40% ability strength. So essentially what we're going to do to get the most out of our abilities is we are going to do a Chain Sling to get 40%. Then we'll use one Operator ability to activate Armor Vigor. And then we'll cast our Eclipse to get the maximum damage potential from it. I am also running a Prisma Shade. Now this, Sentinels really don't matter for this mission at all, in my opinion, but the Shade does offer, some extra invisibility. Obviously, Loki's invisibility can run out, unlike Ivara's, so it's always nice to have a bit of tie-over in between. Should you be close to enemies, Ghost will shroud you until you can recast, and you won't get noticed. So that's the reason I'm running that. Everything else just geared towards staying alive, basically. It's really not an important addition to this build whatsoever. So yeah, that is the whole build, guys. Let's hop into the Archon hunt now and see how we fare. Alright guys, so at the start of the mission here, we're going to go ahead, do a few dashes into the ground, throw out our Operator's second ability, and then activate Eclipse. You can see in the top right there, we get a decent amount of extra weapon damage. And then we're going to cast in our second ability, Invisibility, to lock that damage in. Now as we move towards the Archon here, I'm going to go ahead and just get a few kills. And you can see in the top right that my Galvanized Chamber, as well as my Primary Deadhead, are now stacked up. So we have that extra headshot multiplier and damage, as well as the extra multi-shot. So yeah, should be good. What you got to bear in mind as well is that sometimes, like me, like right here, where I'm failing to kind of, navigate the tile set very well, my invisibility is probably going to run out. So I'm going to wait here, and then I'm going to recast and make sure that I'm in the light when I do that. We'll use our Operator's first ability and get up nice and close. We're going to aim at the Archon shard itself. Now you can see that wasn't quite a one-shot. It was very close. You only had to put in an extra 2. But, I think a few pellets might have missed. My aim might have been off slightly. I could have got a tiny bit closer. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty much a one-shot. So let's carry on through. Now we've got to do the Deacons. And with our increased parkour velocity on our Loki here, we should be able to do this relatively quickly. So let's find out where they are. We got A over here, which is only 200 meters, actually relatively close on this one. Okay, there we go. So I used my Zor there with Exodia Contagion just to clear out the enemies that were protecting the Deacon. Can then grab his helmet and bring it back over. Whoopsie. Now, because we fell off the map, our abilities have reset. So let's go ahead and try and recast those. Unfortunately, I just cast Eclipse whilst I was in invisibility, which is going to guarantee evasion. Not that it's important right now, but we are going to want to make sure that we're in the light for that buff when we come to do the second phase of actually killing the Archon itself. So let's go ahead, do the same thing for this guy here. We can use our Exodia Contagion Zor. Although this Eximus unit is proving to be a bit healthy. There we go. Then we can head back. Let's go ahead and lock in that light buff before we leave. There we go. So now we can carry on. Once again, I'm going to just make sure that my Galvanized Chamber and primary Deadhead mods, or buffs are up, sorry, before we come to actually kill the Archon. So let's do that. He says, missing everyone. That should be enough. Now, because we're in invisibility, remember when we cast our Eclipse here, it is not going to give us the damage buff. So I'm just going to wait actually until my invisibility runs out. Maybe we'll head back here where there's a bit of light. Get our Sling Strength and Molt Vigor ready. There we go. 509%. Lock that in. And now we can head back now. For the second phase, he's probably going to do a load of abilities to begin with. So what I actually like to do to start off with is use my Exodia Contagion, which sticks to him and will teleport to wherever he does on this particular phase. So we can go ahead and use our operators first again. And go for that one shot. Unfortunately, I was a bit late there again. But, you know. Again, very quick generally. How is he not dead right now? Are you kidding me? Let's kill off the stragglers, shall we? As soon as that one dies, we'll finish him off. There we go. Lovely. So now we can get out of here. I think what we'll do, we'll see what we get on extraction, and then we'll head back to the orbiter for a quick round off of the video. No Tower Forge for us this week, unfortunately. But we did do it in about 5 minutes, which isn't too shabby considering we're on solo, and it wasn't a completely clean run. That's just kind of a normal run for me, you know, nothing special about it. I actually find Archon Amar, the Wolf, to be the kind of hardest one to get a one-shot on. His headshot kind of hitbox is about as small as it can possibly get, and his abilities are generally very annoying for stealth frames. He can pull you out of stealth, so do bear that in mind. That was actually a harder example of what, you know, the other two would be. So yeah, let's just do a quick round out, guys. I'll explain a few more things, and then we'll finish the video. Alright, guys, so hopefully that shows you how much you can chunk down a target with just one shot. And the reason that you're able to do that is because although the Archons have adaptive armor, and by that I mean that whenever you shoot them, they actually gain resistance to whatever element you happen to be using against them. Now, we're using radiation against Archon Amar because that is what he is least resistant to. In fact, you get a damage bonus for using radiation against him. But after one shot, obviously with the pellet count we've got, he is going to be almost fully resistant to radiation damage and take merely a fraction of what we would deal on our first shot. So the more damage we can pack in to that first shot, the greater chance we have of essentially one-shotting him. Now, we didn't manage to quite one-shot him in that particular run. We were very close on both occasions of instantly downing his health pool, but, you know, it was only slightly off. And like I said, if you manage to hit all pellets on target on the headshot, then you would be more likely to secure the kill. Unfortunately, I was a bit rushed. But yeah, hopefully that kind of shows you the power of, you know, stealth frames in this game as well. Actually, Loki in particular, for me, I find to be a really useful frame to run with. I don't have to worry about dying at all at any point. No enemy is going to see me. It's just a lot of death and devastation. So yeah, If this video has given you guys some kind of inspiration on how you like to, or how you would like to take down Archons moving forward, then great. If you have your own way of taking down Archons that perhaps I don't know about, and bear in mind, you know, I'm fully aware of the, you know, different strategies that come with this, the different weapons, using Avara, all of that good stuff. But yeah, if you guys have any tactics, tips, methods, whatever, throw those down in the comments below. I would love to read through them and try them out for myself. Otherwise, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. I'll see you later, guys.